truth for the battered but proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and you're listening to Radio Free New York. I'm in the WYSL studio with Bob Savage.
Ahoy, mateys.
Hey. So we got Easter coming up. You doing anything fun for Easter?
Rabbit hunting. No, I'm just kidding, folks. Yeah. Just kidding. Just kidding. No, no definite plans. We have a little family dinner on.
That's usually what we do too.
Yeah, Sunday afternoon. Yep. And the little ones, of course, will do the
egg hunt.
The egg hunt.
Yeah. That's the same thing at our house. Although we force the adults to participate too, and it's a lot of fun because they're not allowed to come in the house till they find all their eggs. And so
as long as I would have no problem with that as long as single malt whiskey is involved.
There you go. A little shot glasses in the eggs, maybe. We've got some camouflage eggs. They we bought them one year, and they're actually kind of like army camouflage eggs.
That's cruel.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a good time. So here we are. We're here on Radio Free New York, and as I look at what I want to talk about for this show today, I think I'm just going to spend a lot of time complaining about New York State and state government. But before I do that, as I was looking at things, I had a couple questions for our audience. So those of you who are listening on the WYSL airwaves and those of you on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, I had a couple questions for you guys. You guys can, shoot me an email, reach out to me on my website, or send a comment on the page. But I was wondering if you guys prefer the long form shows or if you guys prefer having stuff broken up into segments. So what do I mean by that? I've had some shows where one topic and one discussion takes the whole hour show. And I've done other shows where, between breaks, we switch topics. So I just wanted to hear from you guys because I had a couple people send me messages saying, hey, we really like long form. We think it would be cool if you do more of that. So I was wondering, does everybody feel that way, or do some of you guys like the segments? Because if you guys do, maybe I'll do long form on Fridays and segments on Mondays or something like that. So comment in, let me know what you guys think. And the other thing I'm asking you guys for, which you guys are great. I asked you guys about motorcycles, I think 2 weeks ago, and people reached out, gave me a bunch of information. One of the show sponsors invited me over to see their bikes, which was great.
That's cool.
Yeah. So the next thing I'm looking for, I need some driveway work done in the city of Rochester. So if anybody's got their, comment in your favorite local small business that does driveway work, give them a shout out in the comments. That way they get some exposure, and then I'll look through them later and start making phone calls. So the very first thing I think that we're going to talk about today, and just briefly, is the Judge Estacio case. That wrapped up. We didn't get a chance to talk about it.
I've got breaking news on it. I'm so glad you brought it up.
Oh, really?
Yes,
okay. This wasn't planned, by the way.
No, this we just discovered a couple hours ago on a thing called Inner Loop blog.
Okay.
And this is Dateline to Rochester, New York. The Inner Loop blog has printed out the complete 400-plus page Mueller report. We're 9 pages deep now, and have not found one single mention of Judge Estacio. Yeah. We'll keep you updated. We're hoping to read 1 page a day for the next year and a half.
Yeah.
The headline there was Mueller report fails to implicate Judge Estacio.
There you go.
I thought you'd like to know that.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of the Mueller report, I'm sure people are talking about it. I haven't even looked at it. I've been so busy. I figure there's a lot of really smart people out there. I'll let them get good get a good bite into it, and maybe someday in the next month or so, it's a big document. Was it like 380 pages long?
448, I think.
440. Okay, so even more than I thought. So I mean, that's quite the book to read.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think that the Interloop blog's comment, linking it jocularly to Judge Estacio, neatly encapsulates everybody's attitude towards this whole thing. Enough already.
Yeah.
There's no collusion. Can we move on, please?
Yeah. No,
but no. Now we got to move to obstruction. Well, somebody's got to explain to me how you can have obstruction involving a crime that didn't exist.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm not an attorney or a judge. I don't quite know what defines obstruction, but that's an interesting point. So I'm not sure.
It's been proven that the underlying crimes, the collusion, never happened.
Yeah.
Never happened, not in the least, not by Donald Trump or any member of his administration. Yes, the Russians tried to interfere in the election. Wow. Shocked me with that news. They've been trying to do that for 75 years.
Yeah. And I recall back in, I think it was 2016, when I think it was Hillary Clinton said, well, we've known that the Russians have been interfering with our elections for at least 2 decades. And that came from, I think, Hillary Clinton, if I recall. So there's
just shocking. There's Hillary telling the truth.
So what I found really interesting about the Judge Estacio case is the firearm purchase thing. And I don't know if this was talked much about. They moved the case to Syracuse because the case had gotten so much media. They didn't think she would get a fair trial, just based on media bias and everything else. So what I found most interesting, and if you're a gun owner in New York State, you should be listening to this, because what they found in this case is that an unloaded shotgun is not considered a deadly weapon in New York State, a dangerous and deadly weapon. So I actually had a chance to speak to a prosecutor and attorney yesterday, and their take on it was that essentially in New York State, if you have an unloaded firearm and no ammunition in the vicinity, it basically isn't treated any differently than a sledgehammer or a shovel or some other tool.
Who knew? Yeah,
which is interesting to me, because I wonder if this similar defense could be used under the SAFE Act.
Well, yeah, that's what's occurred to me. I made this comment on the Second Amendment show. Yeah. What are the implications of this ruling for the SAFE Act? Yeah. Could be kind of a perverse result from Andy Cuomo's perspective.
Yeah, and so I'm looking at this and I'm saying, is this a fault line that's cracked in the SAFE Act? Because essentially New York state law is a weapon can't be a dangerous and deadly weapon if there's no ammunition. So if somebody got arrested on the SAFE Act violation and there was no ammunition, they may now have grounds for an appeal, and maybe they get that felony removed from their record.
You can drive around with your AR-15, and as long as there's nothing in the mag.
Yeah. So I thought this was really interesting. I saw that the other piece that came out of it was they said that she didn't attempt to purchase it because she hadn't filled out the NICS paperwork. So that was another piece that was very interesting. Even though she went into the store and she, in my opinion, based on what I saw, attempted to purchase it, the court didn't deem it as attempting to be purchased because she didn't fill out paperwork. So kind of an interesting. I don't know that it would have went that way if it was you or I on the stand, but it was very eye-opening to me how the laws can work and how they do work and what ends up happening in the courtroom. So the other thing I spoke about with two attorneys and 2 prosecutors, I asked the question about the Western New York Court of Appeals, the circuit court that deemed that 7 rounds is arbitrary. which this is a ruling that happened 3 years ago now, I think, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. They said that the ammunition restriction on the SAFE Act was unconstitutional because they found that 7 rounds isn't just an arbitrary made-up number. And so my question to these prosecutors was, is 10 arbitrary? And
how can any number...
Yeah.
Well, how can one number be more arbitrary than another?
Exactly. And one of them was unsure, but the other one actually said, I believe so. And in the Western New York Court of Appeals, that may very well hold up in court. So, interestingly enough, depending on where you live in New York State, 30-round magazines, which are considered standard capacity, not high capacity, because of case law, might be technically legal in New York State. Don't know.
Well, it'll have to be litigated.
Yeah.
At somebody's expense. Who wants to sign up? 10 grand about what it'll cost you?
Probably 2 or 3 times that, I think. All right, guys, we're going to take a real quick break here and Radio Free New York, and we're going to talk about overtime pay in New York State. We'll be back in a moment.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Everyone is talking about residual income as a retirement plan. Do you have a residual income plan in place? If not, come to our free seminar on April 25th in Rochester to learn about local residual income opportunities. Go to startrochester.com to sign up for our free seminar. No experience is necessary. Go to startrochester.com and sign up for our free, no obligation seminar. Space is limited to the first 40 people, so sign up now before it fills up. Startrochester.com.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York on the WYSL stations.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and I mentioned to you guys in the beginning of the show, I'm just kind of complaining about New York today, I think, which is maybe easy to do. But I want to share some numbers with you guys, share some information, let you guys know what's going on, what we might be able to expect out of New York in the next year or so. And for those of you who are listening on the radio, you can't see the title that's on the show, but the title is, has New York State pushed away so many that we'll lose 2 more House seats? So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show. The population loss that we've experienced, how that might impact our representation on a federal level. So before I dive into the next piece here, I want to welcome a whole bunch of you guys to the show. I see Carrie, Barbara, Jerry, Jim, Christina, Pam, Mike, Nate, Craig, Yolana, Mario, Todd. Guys, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining. And also our people on Twitter and YouTube. Guys, thanks for jumping in here. So the first thing I want to talk about that I mentioned right before the break is our overtime pay. So sometimes people don't really think about this, especially when it comes to, we talk about the state budget, we talk about expenditures. Sometimes I think what people overlook is the idea that if state government doesn't do what it's supposed to, it costs us even more than we thought. And if we don't plan things appropriately, if departments aren't ran efficiently, people have to work more to get the job done. And that turns into overtime and additional expenditures. So last year, 2018, this just came out in the New York State Comptroller's report, I think, is what it came out of. And we have spent more on the highest amount we've spent in overtime in over 10 years. And I think that they only go 10 years back. I don't think that they actually, like, in the report include anything beyond it. So it's the highest we've ever spent on overtime. It's $787 million in overtime.
The bigger part of $1 billion.
Yeah, almost
just on OT.
Billion, yeah. And so some of you are probably wondering, what does that turn into? How much, how many overtime hours is almost $1 billion of taxpayer money? 18 million overtime hours. 18 million. I mean, that's just mind-blowing. Like the dollar amount, sometimes you get jaded by dollar amounts. I know as I look through the budget, I start to become jaded. You look at something and go, oh, 100 million, that's way less than this other thing. 100 million is still like a ton of money. $1 million is a ton of money. The average American, I forget what the number is, in their entire lifetime, from the time they were born to the time that they die, will spend, I think it's about $3.5 million for their whole entire lifetime, paying all their bills, eating food, all of that. So just these numbers are enormous. But the idea that you would work 18 million overtime hours is just, it really shows you how state government has just gotten too big, just too big. So the report actually says which agencies had the most overtime hours. Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, and the Office of Mental Health. That's interesting to me because I see those 3 offices kind of going together. I think that those 3 go together a lot. And since Cuomo's talking about shutting down prisons, I think that those overtime hours are going to go up. I don't know what you think, but we cut a lot of staffing last year on the state side. I think they said they cut 12% of the staffing last year.
Across the board?
Across the board, yeah.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
Well, no, it sounds like a great thing. I just wonder, because I'm always about making government smaller, but I wonder if that 12% cut made a larger cost in overtime.
Well, it sure looks like it now, doesn't it?
Yeah. So like, it's like, yeah, we're government, we're doing good, we're getting smaller, we cut staff by 12%, but overtime cost us 30% more. So we didn't actually do anything. We made government bigger and cost government more money. I couldn't find those numbers, but I suspect if we were to look at it, that 12% staffing cut cost us significantly more in overtime. So this is I guess my gripe number one. Why is it that state government is being ran so ineffectively that we have $18 million or 18 million hours in overtime, totaling up getting near the neighborhood of $1 billion? And to that point, we have the highest paid legislators now in the nation. We have the highest paid governor in the nation. And we have is it the biggest or the second biggest budget? We're actually third biggest budget right now in the nation. Texas and California actually have larger budgets than us, but we have significantly less people. That's something we're actually going to talk about later in the show, how our budgets compare to other states. So that's my piece on the overtime rates. I don't know what you guys feel about this. I feel like this is just total mismanagement of government resources, and I shouldn't even call it government resources. That's the wrong term. Taxpayer resources. I don't like using the term government funded or government money. It's taxpayer funded. It's taxpayer money, and it's a terrible, terrible misuse. So with that being said, we started talking a little bit about population. And if you guys saw the headlines this morning, we lost more population. We're down now. They did a 6-month measure last year, and we are down overall across the state another 48,000 people. Now, for those of you,
from when is that? Just this year? Or?
It was. I want to say they said June of. Let me see exactly what it was, but it was basically last year's number, and I think it was a 6-month time period that they measured it. But now let's see, New York population on decline. Oh, a year from July 1st, 2017 to July 1st, 2018. Yeah. So for a year, so we've lost now basically close to 5,000 people a month leaving the state. Yeah.
For a while there, it was on track for 100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I think since the last census, we've lost a little over 1 million people.
Yeah, I think that next year we're going to be definitely over 1 million. I think we were at 1 million loss already. So yeah, probably 1.1 million, something like that is where we're going to be. Now here's the thing. A lot of people don't know how this trend has been going. This trend has been going, New York City's population increases while all of upstate, the population decreases, and so many more people leave upstate than New York City's increase, that although New York City's population has increased, we're still losing, we still have a net loss. So we're still losing a lot of people. New York City is now slowing down to the point where I saw a report that said New York City's starting to lose population too.
Yeah, well, it's inevitable. But they would lose it a lot faster were it not for immigration.
Yeah, and that's something that I think was brought up, maybe not in the last show, but the show before. You know, somebody said, hey, what's the Democrat plan is to get as many illegals in a city as possible to increase the population, and then, you know, that could change representation on a national level. You know, and that could be a strategy. I'm not saying if it is or if it isn't, I don't know, but the policies that are driving New York State, at least, I can't speak for other states, are so bad that it's not even being successful. If they're filling the cities with this idea that they're going to have a better census result, it's not happening. It's not happening. We're still losing population. We're still overburdening people to the point where they have to leave. And something I think is really important to talk about is the idea that a lot of people think that, you know, you have people who are in New York State. New York State it keeps getting bluer and bluer and bluer, and that those people are happy, and they're not. You know, the Democrats, the progressives, you know, the people that I would call the anti-liberty movement, those people, they can't afford to live here either. And that, I think, is the biggest irony of this whole thing, is that people who are pushing for bigger government and government to take care of you can't afford to live in a big government state either, which is why you see states like Florida, for example, who are starting to turn blue because they're getting what I call and what they call blue state refugees, people running away as fast as they can from states like New York, going to a state that has smaller government and lower taxes, but they haven't learned. And now they're like, no, we need big government. We need big government. They haven't learned their lesson yet. So it's definitely an issue. We're talking about 50,000 people in a year. Now, as I was looking at this, I started to wonder, I think we might have talked about in one show, we could talk about again, how the employment rate numbers they're kind of a farce. You know, the way they do seasonally adjusted, and if you're looking for work, if you're not looking for work, it's kind of easy to manipulate those numbers. But as I was thinking, you know, with the terrible policies in New York that drive not just people out of the state, but jobs out of the state, drive small businesses out of the state because people can't afford to work and live here, I wonder what that actually does to our unemployment numbers. Because we've had 1 million people leave the state who probably couldn't get a job. So they chased a job in another state. What would our unemployment numbers look like if those people actually stayed?
Yeah, it would be a study. We have to take a look at that. I think a lot of the people that are leaving the state are retaires.
There's a fair number of them. Yeah,
they're just deciding they can't live on a fixed income, whether it's Medicare or a pension or whatever they're collecting, and they can't make the numbers work anymore because of these crazy property tax laws.
Yeah. But then you've got young people too who just can't get a job. You know, and part of that is a broken education system, which is a whole 4-hour show at least. You know, but those people too, they come back home after getting their degree and they look around and they look side to side and they see, oh, no jobs. Where am I going to go? To a state that has a job. And those people leave, and, you know, people who have kids and a family, same thing. If they can't find a job, they leave our state. So, guys, we will be back here in a moment on Radio Free New York.
You're listening to the voice of liberty. WYSL. AM 1040 Avon, Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, FM 95.5 Spencerport, and WYSL1040.com everywhere.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Everyone is talking about residual income as a retirement plan. Do you have a residual income plan in place? If not, come to our free seminar on April 25th in Rochester to learn about local residual income opportunities. Go to startrochester.com to sign up for our free seminar. No experience is necessary. Go to startrochester.com and sign up for our free no-obligation seminar. Space is limited to the first 40 people, so sign up now before it fills up. StartRochester.com.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts
Landspot
Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Radio Free New York on WYSL. AM 1040, FM 92.1, and FM 95.5 West.
All right, guys, we are back here on Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. I want to real quick tell you guys about one of those ads that you guys heard, that startrochester.com. So that seminar, I would definitely recommend you guys go to and check out, because something I do personally, you know, sometimes I talk on the show about how to become debt-free, some of the stuff I've done. One of the ways that I've made money throughout probably the last 8 years or so, is by doing different cash back programs, whether it's a credit card that, you know, you use and you get 2% cash back, or doing affiliate marketing, which we talked about. That's how people make money on Instagram, and Facebook and other places like that. So what that organization does, they do two things. One is they help you get cash back on a lot of your online shopping, and stuff like you make a purchase online, you go pick it up at your local Home Depot still, but you get maybe 2 or 3% cash back. And that's on top of the 2 or 3% of your credit card cash back. So you see how you can kind of basically work in some discounts there.
Sweet.
Yeah. And then the other thing they do is they help you out so that if you refer a friend, you'll get kind of like a kickback bonus, if you will, like a finder's fee. If you refer a friend to buying that same product, they'll give you something like that too. So I just share that with you because I'll probably be at that seminar, actually, just learning a little bit more about it. And like I said, it's a way I've actually used to supplement my income. Not like some people, they do crazy stuff. They replace their income. For the last 5-7 years, it's a couple extra $100 a month, helps me get through, or maybe gets you something nice every once in a while. So definitely check out that seminar while they're in Rochester if you guys have the chance. I think it would be a good move. And while I welcome a few more people, I see you guys are commenting in. Dan, Paula, and Daniel. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm here basically complaining about New York. That's, bad state government.
Or telling the truth about New York. I mean, that's the other way of looking at it. That's
probably the appropriate way of looking at it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just really picking up on some of the things that are going on, sharing with you guys the facts about what's happening. And one of those facts is that since we're losing so much population, chances are pretty good when the 2020 census comes around, we're going to lose a seat or two in the House of Representatives. We're going to lose some representation. So that's a bad thing. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you might not want New York having much representation on the federal level. That is one way to look at it. But on the flip side, that shows how bad it is in New York, that we're losing so many people. Bob and I were talking, probably about 1.1 million people have left the state. And
since the last census.
And that means it sounds like we're going to lose at least one, right? Because you took a look and it looks like about 700,000 people per representative. Is that
well,
roughly right?
Yeah, with an asterisk after that. Basically, right now, if you look at this on a national basis, the U.S. House of Representatives has one voting member for every 747,000 or so Americans. Put it precisely 747,184. That's as of last year. Now, the size of the U.S. Congress was last calibrated to the population on a national basis in 1910. So like 110 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we got the same representation in Congress that we had when the population of the country was 209,447. As we just said, now it's 747,184. But that is a little tricky because that's for the nation as a whole. The ratios for the individual states vary considerably, mainly because of the House's fixed size and the Constitution's requirement that each state, no matter what its population, have at least one representative. So no state can go unrepresented. So we have virtually a tie between the populations of Montana and Rhode Island. The former has 1,050,050, the latter 1,059,000. Rhode Island, little teeny tiny Rhode Island, 4 counties in it, has 2 representatives. Montana only got 1.
Yeah.
So it's a little hard to figure.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to figure. So we're thinking that we could lose 1, 2, maybe even 3 representative spots in 2020, or maybe it would probably take an effect 2021. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know how quickly that. I don't know how quickly that changes.
Next election cycle, it would cycle through.
I think the smart money's saying 2.
Yeah. So it's interesting, but what that means is that the bad policies in New York, the reasons people are leaving: poor education system, awful roads, terrible economic climate, and just a bad family court system,
crazy taxes,
awful laws. All these things aren't just impacting people to the point where they just leave the state or don't have a job or live in poverty. It's also impacting the level of representation you have on the federal level. So this is something that should concern everyone. And once again, if you're of the mindset that the way the Democrats are trying to get around this to increase their representation is by hauling in illegal immigrants, that's not working either. I mean, that I don't know if there's a speculative number about how many illegal immigrants are in New York and what that number would be. But whatever that number is, it's not enough. We're still losing representation. So that just, it's not working. So as I was looking at the population loss, and it's kind of coming to light, we're looking at losing representation. We're looking at families just fleeing out of our state. I then wanted to look and see, okay, and we talked about very poor government spending and efficiency and our issue with the overtime rates. I wanted to take a look at the top 5 most populated states and what their budgets were. And just take a look and see, is it truly a mismanagement of money? This whole thing. So if we go through, I'm going to go through the top 5 states, their population, then their budgets, then the cost per person. So there's something in here that actually surprised me. It surprised me a lot. So I knew that California was going to be the number 1 in terms of population. These numbers, by the way, came from World Population Review. So I pulled the numbers from there. The only number that doesn't match what they have is New York, since today New York's new numbers came out. So I took the latest numbers as of today. So California, 40 million people in their population, $209.1 billion budget. That comes out to $5,225.28 per person for their state budget. Once again, this is man, woman, child, whether you work or not, whether you pay taxes or not, because I couldn't find numbers on how many taxpayers there are in states. It's like nobody wants you to know what the actual
Pittsburgh.
What the actual burden is. It actually sounds like we've got a caller on the line. So why don't we go ahead and take the caller, and then I'll go through the numbers here after the call. Jim, how are you?
Good, Andrew. And how you doing, Robert?
How's it going?
If you look back to our representatives, you're talking about 1 million people that New York has lost now. But if you go back into the 70s, we had 40. I think it was 45. I used to know that right off the top of my head, but we've gone from 45 to 29 representatives. And, just like you're saying, Andrew, it makes us less relevant when it comes to states voting for tax increases. We're not as powerful as we once were when we had 45 reps.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So.
Yeah, and it's not even it's sure we've got state tax issues, but also federal tax issues. Whether it's income tax, infrastructure, capital improvement plans, the roads. Everybody talks about the roads, although I don't think does the federal government do roads.
Well, there's federal highway funds that get funneled to the state.
Up money that goes to the states. So yeah, the less and less relevant we become, the less say we have in the federal budget. So absolutely. Thank you for the call, Jim.
All right. Thanks, Andrew.
Yep.
346-3000, the number to call, by the way. Jim's line is open. 346-3000. That's area 585.
Yep. Guys, please call in. I love hearing from you guys. So California, about $5,200 per person, 40 million for their population.
Wow. So California is now about twice the size of New York.
They are double the size of New York. Yep. Texas is number 2. Texas is 29 million. Their budget is actually bigger than California's. I didn't know that. Bigger than California's by almost $40 billion. So there is $248 billion. Their tax divvy up basically per person is $8,500. So that was wildly surprising to me, because I always kind of look at Texas as like a red state. We don't like the government. We want small government, but they're actually at almost $3,500 more per citizen as far as taxes go. Florida's got 21.6 million residents. Their budget is only $88.7 billion.
Good for Florida.
Yeah. So they're at about 4,000 per citizen. Guys, I'm going to tell you what New York and Pennsylvania have population-wise and tax-wise when we come back from this break.
Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Everyone is talking about residual income as a retirement plan. Do you have a residual income plan in place? If not, come to our free seminar on April 25th in Rochester to learn about local residual income opportunities. Go to startrochester.com to sign up for our free seminar. No experience is necessary. Go to startrochester.com and sign up for our free no-obligation seminar. Space is limited to the first 40 people, so sign up now before it fills up. Startrochester.com.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website.
Come on back.
On and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York on the WYSL stations.
All right, guys, welcome back to Radio Free New York. If you're watching the live stream, you guys notice I'm wearing my cool Radio Free New York t-shirt. So the link to buy one of those is in the top of the title there. If you guys go to ayr.show/support, you guys can buy a t-shirt or maybe a hoodie. It's a little chilly today. You could still get a hoodie. It's still hoodie season. And that helps us support the show. So if you guys want something like that, that would be awesome. They're a great talking point too. Somebody sees a shirt, Radio Free New York. What is that? And then you can tell them about the show and tell them what you like about the show. Tell them what you don't like about the show. Maybe they call in angry. That's even better. Whatever floats your boat. So definitely, check those out. So we're talking about population. We're talking about government spending. We're just getting down to the nuts and bolts of the data here. And before we took a break, we talked about the first 3 states that have highest population in the United States. That's California, Texas, Florida. New York is number 4. So we used to be number 2. We were probably number 1 at some point. I don't know how long ago that was, but now we're all the way down to the 4th most populated state in the nation. We're down to 19.5 million people. We just keep ticking down. We've lost over 1 million in the last 10 years, but our budget, although our population is going down.
Oh, don't tell me. Let me guess.
Guess. What do you think? Do you think it's going up or down?
Actually, I don't have to guess.
Yeah.
175 billion this year.
Yes, it is, which equals about $9,000 per person. And when I say per person, I don't mean just the people who go to work. I mean, everybody, children, the infants that were born today, their share of our tax bill is $9,000.
So you got a family of 4 is $36,000. $36K.
Yeah, and that's just state. I mean, we still have state takes 4% of your sales tax. Well, guess what? In Monroe County, there's another 4% you pay when you purchase something. So that's, you're looking at, that's just state tax. That's not your local tax, your property tax, your school tax, your fees, your licensing. No. That's just your state tax right there. Yeah.
Just to put this in perspective, in medieval times, typically serfs paid 25%.
Yeah.
That was serfdom.
Yeah.
You getting this, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's that's about where the federal number starts for most people. And goes up from there, and then you got state on top of it, and then you got local on top of it.
Then you got Democrats cheerfully saying we need a top rate of 70%.
Yeah. I've seen some economists who have said that we already basically pay 70 to 80%. It's just built into the price of everything you buy.
Yeah. Hidden taxes.
Yeah. So the idea that people think that we should be going up in taxes, to me, is just mind-blowing. But New York State is showing that it doesn't work, right? New York State is showing you're going to keep losing population. You're going to keep losing representation. You keep down this path, eventually it's just going to be a handful of people left in New York State paying taxes that are covering this bill.
Well, as we've seen, and it has been proven over and over and over again, and this is just almost like a natural law, as you increase tax rates, the collection of revenue goes down.
As you increase tax rates,
you would think that if the tax rates go up, that it would produce you would collect more money. But the opposite is the case, because what happens is any one of a number of things. Either people escape from the high tax states to lower tax jurisdictions, or they employ clever tax attorneys to reduce the amount of tax exposure that they have. It goes down.
Yeah.
If you want to increase the revenues, cut the taxes.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you say that. There was an article about a pizza shop in Rochester this morning that New York State's chasing after them for, I think, like $5 million worth of tax evasion or something. And I didn't read the whole article and look into it, so I don't have all the numbers and the details. But yeah, I mean, what happens is when the taxes become too much, a few things happen, right? People leave, just like you said. Black market opens up. Well, in terms of jobs and stuff, that's hiring people under the table, that's misreporting income, doing cash-only jobs, like that whole thing. You start creating a black market, you know?
Yeah. So cigarettes in New York, 60% of cigarette sales are black market.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll move on real quick. We'll include Pennsylvania, right? They're number 5 on our list. They have 12.8 million people with an $85 billion budget. So that was interesting to me because Florida is just killing it on this list. I expected more from Pennsylvania and Texas, to be honest, because Pennsylvania's number ends up being about $67,000 per person.
6,700?
Yeah, sorry, 6,700, not 67,000. Good catch. So I look at this and clearly of this list, Florida's doing all right. Not to say that the others aren't, but we are clearly way above everybody else in terms of what we're spending on money, and our services are just so much worse.
Oh my gosh! You come down to the radio station. How do you like that ride on 390?
Goodness,
is that the worst?
You know what? So the other day I went to Buffalo. Business is booming for me right now, so I shouldn't be complaining, but I am busy. And me and one of my guys were driving out to Buffalo, and I told him, I'm like, you got to drive in the other lane. We're going to be replacing all the wheel bearings and all the shocks in this vehicle. The vehicle's got less than 10,000 miles on it. And I'm like, this thing's going to be a pile of rubble by the end of this short trip to Buffalo. I mean, yeah, the roads, 390, 90, they're in rough shape.
That reminds me, I got to call Lori Meyer at the New York State Department of Transportation. I mean, you take 390 southbound from Henrietta to, exit 7 or 8 or whatever. I mean, it's enough to shake the fillings out of your teeth.
Oh, yeah. I used to joke that the roads in New York would make my my iPod skip, and the joke is they can't. There's nothing, and people would kind of jump in and give me the technical explanation as to why they can't. And I'm
they can't because it's just a computer making all these
solid state
analog to digital conversions.
And I'm like, no, it was a joke. The roads are just really bad, guys.
Mine does a lot better now that I've replaced the stylus in it.
There you go. So I tell you guys all this, but tell you, don't worry, government's got it figured out.
Oh, yeah, they sure do.
They know how they're going to fix this problem. The way they're going to fix it is they're going to start taxing golf courses to start with, you later, I'm sure, based on what the value of your property could be if you were to do something differently instead of the current value.
This is Andy Cuomo's Minority Report tax.
Yeah.
Minority Report, the story, of course, the people who get prosecuted for crimes they haven't committed yet.
Yep. So this is started with golf courses, and if I water it down for you guys real quick, the idea is, say your golf course is 10 acres, and you've got a lodge or something like that for people to eat and drink at, and then golf course, you get taxed at the value of that property if you were to sell it today. Well, this idea is that they look at the property and go, well, that's 10 acres. And if you sold it today, let's say you'd get $100,000 for it. But you know what? If you were to develop this into 4 or 5 neighborhoods and sell each house for $200,000, you've got, let's call it 20 or so lots in this 10 acres. So we'll take 20, multiply that by 200,000. Oh, you know what? We're going to tax you on $4 million instead of $100,000 because maybe you could do that someday.
Yeah, when you hear this referred to in the news, ladies and gentlemen, this is called highest and best use.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is you've got bureaucrats imagining the way that you would develop your property most efficiently, and they're going to tax you on the potential.
Yep.
I mean, to think of how you expand this, and believe me, they'll expand it.
Oh, yeah. Once it goes through once, it's not going to get smaller.
It's not going to be just golf courses.
Yep.
Farmland.
Sure. Yeah, but at some point and someday, they'll have sucked all the businesses dry, or they'll be out of business, and they're going to turn to your residential properties. And the very first people that are going to get hit on this are going to be our retired folk. The people that have lived on a fixed income for 10, 20 years now, they're barely scraping by, barely able to take care of their taxes. And New York's going to look and go, Oh, you haven't improved your home in 20 years. Yeah, because if I improve it, my taxes go up. Well, you could improve it, so we're going to tax you on an extra $50,000 or $60,000 of what your property could be improved. And people are going to lose their homes. People aren't going to be able to afford to keep up. We're going to lose more families. If there's any families left in New York at this point, I don't know. But this is the slippery slope. And to your point, it starts with a parking lot. Well, this is a parking lot, but, if you put some shops in here instead, the value would be whatever number they come up with, whatever they make up. And it's going to put a lot of people out of business.
Yeah, think of what effect this is going to have on property values.
Yeah.
You're going to go upside down on that mortgage of yours.
Yeah. Well, it'll stop purchases of property in New York immediately. I mean, people will no longer, from out of state, people will not buy property in New York. It's starting with commercial, because they'll start with commercial and then eventually trickle down to residential. And if we think people are leaving the state quickly now, when your tax bill triples or quadruples in a year, people are going to look for a way to leave. The problem is nobody's going to buy that property. So you'll be trapped to your property because nobody will buy it because the taxes are too high, but you can't afford to pay it, which is a problem a lot of our retired people have now. And it's only going to get worse if this passes. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here on Radio Free New York. I will catch you guys on Monday, and maybe we'll talk about, I'm saying that Rochester is going to be the new tech boom city, which is my world. So I'll see you guys then.
Patrick presents up to $13,500 off a new 18 GMC Sierra Double Cab 4x4. $13,500 for anyone that finances with GMF approval, or lease a $29,000 GMC